Connecticut's Department of Public Health on the receiving end of a lawsuit filed by a former senior aide. Av Harris, who served as the spokesperson for the Department of Public Health, claims he was fired in retaliation for bringing up concerns about something he was asked to do. He says his firing is illegal under Connecticut's whistleblower laws. I spoke with him and his lawyer tonight.
It is unfortunate that we had to take this step, and ultimately I think it's going to result in a waste of taxpayer resources.
Av Harris speaking about his lawsuit against the state of Connecticut and the Department of Public Health.
And the law is very clear that you cannot fire or discipline an employee for raising those concerns to a public body. But that's exactly what happened here.
It's been almost 3 months since Harris was fired from his job with Connecticut's Department of Public Health. He was a senior aide heading up communications for a department on the front lines of managing the COVID-19 crisis. Harris, with 13 years of experience in state and city government, working directly with the press under a total of 3 DPH commissioners, with Mayor Joe Ganim in Bridgeport and the Secretary of the State's office under now Lieutenant Governor Susan Bysiewicz and current Secretary of the State Denise Merrill. The lawsuit points to December 29th, when Harris claims he was asked by the Department of Public Health's Commissioner, Dr. Deirdre Gifford, to reach out to the city of Bridgeport and get assistance from police officers there in issuing the first $10,000 fine over alleged COVID violations at a sports bar.
And looking at it more closely, I became concerned that issuing the fine might not be legal.
Harris was concerned about interfering in an active double homicide investigation at the bar and whether DPH had the authority to even issue the fine. He reached out to DPH lawyers. When he couldn't reach anyone, he then went to the governor's legal counsel.
Because I raised those concerns, I was pulled into a meeting with the Commissioner of Public Health and admonished for reaching out to talk to the governor's office, and 2 days later I was fired.
Harris says Commissioner Gifford told him, "This makes it hard for us to trust you with sensitive information because we don't know who you are calling." Harris believes his firing violates Connecticut's whistleblower statute.
The problem with the Commissioner of Public Health willfully just ignoring whistleblower protections is that it sends a chilling signal to any other state employee who might be witnessing some kind of wrongdoing and feel compelled to report it. This says to them, keep your mouth shut. And that's not what the whistleblower laws are designed for.
His lawyer agrees.
It is a clear-cut case, in my view, of retaliation, and it sends a terrible message to our public servants.
As for Harris, he says he and his family have suffered financial harm, but the real victims, he says, are Connecticut's taxpayers.
And I've always really tried to be a team player, a good soldier for whoever I'm working for, but ultimately be accountable to the taxpayers. So it's very odd for me to be in this position of having been terminated for essentially doing my job and doing it well.
Now, we did reach out to the governor's office and the attorney general's office about the lawsuit and received no comment. We also reached out to the Department of Public Health. They also said they would not be commenting on pending litigation.
All right.